My name is Lucas Bennett, and for a long time, my life felt like a series of quiet defeats that no one cared to notice, except when they wanted to mock them. Every failure at school felt public. I still remember sitting in class while the teacher handed back our tests, her footsteps slow and heavy as if she already knew what awaited me. When the paper landed on my desk, I didn't need to look. The thick red F at the top screamed loud enough. Around me, classmates exchanged glances and smirks. Someone whispered, "Here we go again." I kept my head down, pretending not to hear, pretending not to care. Math, history, science, it didn't matter. The results were always the same. Teachers stopped hiding their disappointment. Some shook their heads. Others avoided my eyes altogether. I became a walking expectation of failure. Eventually, the principal called me into his office and slid a warning letter across the desk. If my grades didn't improve, I wouldn't graduate. That was when my father was contacted. Edward Bennett was a billionaire, a man respected and feared in boardrooms, a man who believed discipline solved everything. When he arrived at school, dressed in a sharp suit, the air itself felt tense. He didn't ask me how I was doing. He didn't ask why I was struggling. He slammed my report cards onto the desk and told me I was embarrassing him. His words cut deeper than any insult from my classmates. When he walked out, he didn't look back. I stayed seated, fighting tears I refused to let fall. After that, school became unbearable. Students laughed openly now. Someone scratched rich but stupid on my locker. A bully knocked my cafeteria tray onto the floor while others laughed. I didn't fight back. I didn't have the energy. At night, I tried studying, but the words blurred together. I tore pages from my notebook, crumpling them in frustration. Nothing stuck. I started believing what everyone else already had, that I was hopeless. One evening, after everyone had left, I stayed alone in an empty classroom. The halls echoed with silence. I rested my head on the desk and whispered that I hated my life. That was when I heard a soft humming and the steady sweep of a broom. The janitor stepped inside. His name was Mr. Harold Green. He was in his 60s, calm and unhurried, with kind eyes that seemed to see more than people expected. I muttered that he wouldn't understand my problems. Instead of leaving, he smiled and asked me to explain anyway. "I fail at everything," I told him, "and my father despises me." He didn't interrupt. When I finished, he leaned on his mop and said something that confused me at first. "You're not failing. You're learning the wrong way." From his pocket, he pulled out a small, worn notebook filled with notes and drawings. He circled one word and showed it to me: focus. He told me it had helped him raise 3 children alone and survive years of struggle. Learning, he said, wasn't about forcing information into your head. It was about breaking big problems into small, manageable steps. That night, he showed me a simple math problem. I failed, then failed again. But instead of scolding me, he told me to slow down. Breathe. Try again. When I finally solved it, my heart raced. For the first time, I didn't feel stupid. I felt capable. From that moment on, I stayed late every night. Mr. Green used cleaning tools to explain lessons, broom handles for geometry, buckets of water for fractions, clock hands for time calculations. He made learning feel human. I laughed during those sessions, something I hadn't done in weeks. Slowly, things started to make sense. My grades improved gradually. An F became a C. A C became a B. Teachers noticed. Classmates stared. I stopped playing video games and started organizing my notes. I even helped another student who was failing, and when he thanked me, something shifted inside me. I realized I had value. Midterms arrived, and fear returned. My hands shook as the exam paper landed on my desk. But I remembered Mr. Green's voice: small steps. I focused on one question at a time. When the bell rang, I had finished the test. I walked out exhausted, but proud. Days later, I stood in front of the results board, barely breathing. Next to my name was a grade I had never seen before: A-. My vision blurred with tears. I ran straight to the janitor's room and hugged Mr. Green without saying a word. He laughed softly and told me I had done the work myself. When my father was summoned again, he expected another disappointment. Instead, he stared at my report card in silence. For the first time, there was no anger in his eyes. When he learned who had helped me, he shook Mr. Green's hand and thanked him. It was the first time I saw humility in my father. At the school assembly, I told everyone the truth. I said I had failed every test, until someone taught me how to see differently. I pointed at the janitor standing quietly at the back of the hall. The applause was overwhelming. Years later, in college, I still live by that lesson. I visit Mr. Green, now retired, whenever I can. Once, I gave him a golden notebook engraved with a single word. Focused IT didn't just change how I studied. It changed who I became. Even after that moment, my journey was far from over. Success did not suddenly make life easy, but it gave me something far more important: direction. For the first time, I woke up knowing why I was trying. Every morning, I repeated Mr. Green's lesson in my head. Focus on one thing, one step, one goal. At school, people treated me differently. Some were genuinely curious, others suspicious, as if waiting for me to fail again. A few bullies tried to provoke me, reminding me of who I used to be. This time, I didn't react. I had learned that growth was quiet. It didn't need to prove itself to anyone. Teachers started asking me questions in class. My hands still trembled sometimes when I raised them, but I answered anyway. Even when I was wrong, I no longer felt ashamed. I understood now that mistakes were part of learning, not proof of stupidity. Each small improvement felt like a victory I had earned myself, and why Father watched these changes from a distance. He didn't suddenly become warm or expressive, but his silence changed. It was no longer dismissive, it was thoughtful. Once, late at night, I found him reading one of my textbooks. He didn't explain why. He simply nodded at me and said, "Keep going." That was more encouragement than I had ever received from him. Mr. Green remained my anchor. On nights when I felt overwhelmed, he reminded me that pressure meant growth. He told me stories about his youth, about jobs he failed at, about dreams that didn't work out the way he planned. Those stories taught me that life wasn't about avoiding failure, but about responding to it with patience and humility. As graduation approached, I was asked to tutor younger students who were struggling. Sitting across from them, I saw my former self, confused, ashamed, convinced they weren't smart enough. I taught them the same way Mr. Green taught me, slowly, calmly, one step at a time. When their eyes lit up with understanding, I felt something powerful. I wasn't just learning anymore. I was giving something back. Graduation day arrived sooner than I expected. Standing in my cap and gown, I scanned the audience. I saw my mother wiping tears from her eyes. I saw my father standing straight, clapping quietly. And I saw Mr. Green near the back, smiling like a proud parent. When my name was called, I walked across the stage with my head held high. I wasn't the smartest student in the room, but I was one of the strongest. College brought new challenges, but I carried the same lesson with me. Whenever a subject felt impossible, I broke it down. Whenever doubt crept in, I focused on progress instead of perfection. Each success traced its roots back to those late evenings in an empty classroom and a janitor who believed in me when no one else did. Years later, when Mr. Green retired, I visited him often. We sat on his porch, talking about life, laughing about old memories. I told him that people now saw me as confident and capable, but that everything started with him. He shook his head and told me I had always had it inside me. He just helped me see it. That was when I handed him the golden notebook. Inside, on the first page, was the word that saved me: focus. He ran his fingers over the letters and smiled, his eyes filled with quiet pride. Looking back now, I understand something I didn't back then. The greatest teachers don't always stand in front of classrooms. Sometimes they hold mops instead of textbooks. Sometimes they teach you lessons that go far beyond school. And sometimes they change your entire life without ever asking for anything in return.